Hey, gun people. Got a couple questions on the on DUIs and search warrants. So I'll do one of each. First one's on a DUIs. Someone asked kind of what kind of advice or what do cops do and how do DUIs work. And a DUI is driving under the influence. It used to be the penal code 502. So the 2 for cops used to call it a deuce for short. And then a deuce just kind of got turned in over the years to DUI or DWI, and so they just call it a deuce. So in law enforcement, if you hear somebody talk about a deuce, they're talking about a drunk driver. So here's the deal with drunk driving, and I think it's gone way overboard. But you know, when I started in law enforcement, if we caught somebody who had a few too many drinks, and we pulled them over and they didn't have an accident, they weren't driving all over crazy, and they just might have been a little close to having too much to drink, we either made them park their car and gave them a ride home, made them park their car, maybe gave them a ride to a friend's house, maybe called a friend to come get them, to come sit with them. There was things that we did because cops were more part of the community. It wasn't government against the citizen. And I mean, through my career, it just got worse and worse and worse about it's us against them. It's us, the cops. It's us, the government. It's us, the politicians. We represent the politicians. We work for the politicians. We work for the DAs, the chiefs of police, the mayor. All those people are politicians. They get elected. So they move with the flow. So mothers, when I was in college, taking some college class, I remember doing a paper on mothers against drunk driving. They had just come out. And that was the big deal about, you know, the child got killed by a drunk driver. And then when they got out, it became such a political issue and a child issue and a mother issue that it lost all common sense. So drunk driving nowadays, most states it's a .08, some states are a .10. .08 is your blood alcohol, and the way that most people, you can tell on what your alcohol content is, and this is kind of average, you know, depending on your tolerance, what you ate, how long ago you ate, what kind of food you ate, how much you weigh, and how much you drink. So all these variables come in here, but for the average 180-pound person, 150-pound person, one drink will give you .02 per hour. So you hear all these people running around, oh, you can drink 2 drinks and be tipped up for drunk driving. No, you can't, because if you drank 2 drinks in 1 hour, the most you would probably be is an 04. Now, if you're really small and you didn't drink a lot, you may be an 05. But if you're really big, you may only be an 03. But if you figure .2 per drink per hour, and your body, the normal body, burns .02 per hour. So if I drink 1 beer and wait an hour, I will be 0. If I drink 2 beers and wait an hour and I took a breath test, I'd be .02 because I burned O2 in that hour and I had 2 beers, which was an 04 minus the O2 would give me O2. So, you know, if you drink over the course of 2 hours, you get kind of 2 drinks free, and then to get to an 08, you need 4 drinks. Now, the other thing that you need to consider with DUI is what percentage of alcohol. German beer has more alcohol than some beer. So if you're drinking low percentage alcohol, I think Oklahoma has lower percentage beer for some reason. Dry County, there's something about their beer is either stronger or lighter. So, you know, the normal thing for the .02 is 1 beer, a glass of wine, or a mixed drink. Any one of those will give you .02. Now, obviously, if your glass of wine is huge, you're going to be getting a lot more in O2. Or if you're drinking a large beer, or you have 1 pitcher of beer, obviously you're going to be higher. But O2 per drink per hour plus your burn per hour. So if you go out and drink for 4 hours, you're going to get 4 drinks free, and then you're going to have to drink another 4. So if you drank 8 beers, you're going to burn 2 per hour. You're probably going to be at a .08. If you drank, you know, 8 beers, I think that's right, 8 beers in 4 hours. 2, 4, 6, 8. 8 beers would be 16 minus that 08. Yeah. So that's a good way to kind of figure out on whether you're at the limit or not. Now, again, the spirit of the law for drunk driving was to remove people who were a danger. It's not that anymore. Now it's about money, publicity, grants, I mean, one PD I worked for, we had a DUI grant. So me and my partner would go out every night, and that's all we would do is get DUIs. That's all they wanted us to do. So we'd park by the bars, we'd hang out. Our shift was like 6 at night or 8 at night till 4 in the morning because the bars would close. That would give us time to get, so it was, we called it deucing hours. So the big DUI areas, and all we do is go out and get drunk drivers. And we had to get so many drunk drivers to justify our grants. If we didn't get drunk, if anybody else on the streets pulled over a drunk driver, they'd call us. So we would go over there and we'd get the stat. And that way we justified the grant. The feds paid us money. It's all about money and grants and keeping the position. So it kept extra cops on the road. It paid for extra cops on the road. Now when we're out there looking for drunk drivers, if there's a major call, a shooting, stabbing, domestic, whatever, where they need more officers, of course we go. But our main job was to get drunk drivers. Now, what they didn't want us doing out there when you're on a drunk driving grant is out there writing tickets for a brake light or, you know, responding to barking dogs call and doing all those other things. They want you out there stopping cars that you think are drunk. And if there's any accidents or any drunks, they want you going and seeing if there's alcohol involved. So how does a cop figure out if you're drunk, or what should you do if you get pulled over for drunk driving? Well, and I'm not advocating drunk driving. Anybody that tells you if they drink and they tell you they've never driven when they were close to legal limit, they're lying. I mean, all cops do it. Shit, when I was working for Vallejo, we'd get off at 2 in the morning and there was a bar across the street that would stay open. They'd open and we'd drink till 4 or 5 and then I'll drive home. And the whole PD, the whole shift did it. And, you know, they called it choir practice, but cops, when they get off at different shifts, you know, the cops that work midnight shift, they get off at 6, a lot of times they'll just sit in the parking lot across the street somewhere and bring a case of beer and have a few beers to unwind and cool down. So anybody that tells you, oh, I never drink or drive, that's dangerous, you kill somebody, and whatever, everybody's had a drink and driven home. Now, the other thing with drunk driving is obviously you can't have open containers in the car. When I grew up in Texas, you could drink and drive. We would live, I remember when I was in the Air Force station down in San Antonio, we would get off base, take our helmets off, put it on the side of our motorcycles, pour ice in the helmet. They used to have these things called Miller Ponies, and they were little bitty short glass bottles of beer, and we would stick the Miller Ponies in our helmet with the ice and drive down to Corpus Christi and Port Aransas while we were drinking. Because it was legal to drink and drive, you just couldn't drive drunk. Well, over time, everybody had a cow about it, and how dangerous it is, and you got to wear a helmet and all this other crap. So now you can't drink and drive. Now it's illegal to drink and drive. And then it went further that you can't even have an open container. So if you go to a restaurant and you had a bottle of wine and you only drank a glass and you were going to bring it home and enjoy it later, you couldn't even have that bottle of wine in your car. It'd have to be locked in the trunk or locked in the glove box. And then some senator, congressman, some crooked ass politician got pulled over and he got a ticket. So he wrote legislation to change that and says you're allowed to have an open container in your car if you're coming from a restaurant and it's mine as long as it's corked. And so that changed the law for that. Now you can't have an open beer in your car, but if you can have a glass of wine, because that's what the congressman wrote in the law, you can have a bottle of wine in your car that's open. So let's get back to the test and what cops do when they pull you over. What we're looking for. Okay. First of all, you can pull over anybody at any time for anything. These people running around saying, I never break the law and I follow the law and the cops, if you don't do nothing wrong, the cop won't pull you over. That's BS. If I want to pull you over, the vehicle code's usually this thick, you know, with well over 3,000 to 5,000, if not 20,000 violations that I can pull you over for. And they vary from so many different things, it's ridiculous. So I can pull you over for thinking you got a bald tire for a safety inspection, because I can't read your license plate, because I can't read the registration, because I misread the registration and thought it was expired, because I ran it and the computer wasn't updated. I mean, I can pull you over for 1,000 things. So you can get pulled over for anything. That's the problem with laws. That's why I'm always against anti-government, anti-power, government control, limited powers for government, because if it's up to them, they'll write a law for everything and they won't ever enforce it except when they want to. And then that gives them power to use that power corruptly. And then I'll only enforce it on the conservatives, or I'll only enforce it on the non-illegals, or I'll only enforce it on the white guy because, you know, everyone else is protected. You know, laws are, that's when laws get out of control. So when somebody says you can't pull me over because I follow the law, that's BS. I can pull you over. So as I'm a cop, if I'm looking at you, the things I'm looking for, if I'm working drunk driving, is I'm looking for a flush face. Alcohol is a depressant. It opens the capillaries. People who drink, you'll notice they get rosy cheeks and a red nose. And that's because their capillaries open up and they get more blood flow. So I can drive by somebody, look over at them, and they're sitting there, look at me, get nervous, and look straight, and I see that red face, and that's enough for me to pull them over. Okay? So I can pull them over just for a red face. Well, Rick, that's not fair. What if they got a cold, or what if that's the skin, or what if it's their makeup? Tough shit. I looked at it. As a trained cop, I can pull them over. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just telling you that's a law, and we can do it, and it's done all the time. So you're looking for behavior in a person, and that behavior can be what they call consciousness of guilt. You look over and you look straight ahead. You look straight ahead and you won't look over. You're glancing, your eyes are moving, you appear to be asleep or too relaxed driving. You know, your hands relax, you look like you're nodding off, you're tired. You start off slow from a red light, you stop too long at a stop sign, you don't stop enough at a stop sign. So there's all kind of things that we're looking for, a driving pattern when you're driving. Weaving in and out of lane, hitting your brakes a lot, varying speed, going too slow, going too fast. I mean, there's just 1,000 things that you can look for when you're looking for a drunk driving or something that intimidate or will indicate what that you're following a drunk driver. A lot of drunk drivers will go slow and then they'll go fast. Then they'll go slow and they'll go fast, and they don't realize they're doing it. Or they'll ride their brakes, or they'll tap their brakes, or they'll follow too close, or they'll follow too far. So once a cop pulls you over, he's got to figure out whether you're under influence. First and probably most common indicator is going to be the smell of alcohol. So if all your windows are down and the wind's blowing straight into the cop, he's going to smell it. If the wind's blowing this way and he approaches on the driver's side and that window's down and this window's down, he's probably not going to smell it. But he's going to do things to get his head in the car. A cop can't walk up and just go in your car and go, get out of the way, let me smell, and sniff. So he's going to find ways. He's going to talk lower. And you're going to say, what? And he's going to get closer and talk lower and whisper. He's going to get his face closer. He's going to reach in and get your license. He's going to just lean over and talk to you. I'm going to get my head close enough to where I can smell. Once I smell alcohol, then I have to have some indication that it's not necessarily spilt on the car. Because, you know, hey, I smell alcohol. Well, yeah, that's because I gave my brother a ride home and he threw a beer on me. He was drunk and he threw a beer on me. That's what you're smelling. So you haven't been drinking? No. So as you're talking, I'm looking for slurred words, slurred speech, stuttering, mushed mouth, to where you're kind of not making your words. You're not looking at me. Your answers may be short and abrupt. Your answers may be inconsistent. I'm looking at your eyes. Your eyes are going to be glassy-eyed. You're going to get bloodshot. Remember that blood flows to the cheeks. It also flows to the eyes and gives you bloodshot eyes. So those are the things that we're going to right now report on why we thought you were drunk driving. When I approached the suspect, he had slurred speech, a smell of alcohol, his face was flushed, he had bloodshot eyes and watery eyes, he appeared to be mush-mouthed when he talked, he was uncoordinated, dropped his license twice. So those are the things that's a good pat, you're drunk driving. So now I can get out and get you to do tests. Okay? If you're driving a car, you have to give your cop a license upon request. When you sign and get a license, one of the reasons when you sign and accept that license, which is why I don't think government ought to be in control of license. I mean, hell, can you imagine if they try to make everybody that rode a horse back in the old days have a license from the government? There'd have been shootouts on every corner. I don't need no damn license to ride my horse. That's my mode of transportation. And how can you make a living nowadays without it? But the government has to give you permission to make a living. Otherwise, they can make you take the bus or walk, because that's government power out of control. But anyway, if you drive a car, when you sign to get your license, you have to say, hey, I agree that I'll give my identification and my driver's license to any peace officer upon request when I'm driving, period. So as soon as you don't do that, you've committed a crime, you've violated, your license can be suspended. They normally don't, but it could be. So now I'll get you a license, I can get you out of the car. My advice to anybody who was drunk driving, to make your case the best so they don't have as much, say little, do little, admit nothing, deny everything, request an attorney. Okay? And those three things, we used to joke all the time, man. If crooks admitted nothing, denied everything, and demanded proof, we wouldn't have any convictions. Because, I mean, 90% of all convictions is from a statement from the person. He either gave a false statement and lied, or he admitted to something. And a lot of confessions and admissions are fake. People are scared, they just don't want to get in trouble. They're worried you'll find out about something bigger, so they'll admit to something small. So, I mean, there's all kind of studies out there that on why people give false confessions or false confessions, and a lot of times from intimidation of cops, you get multiple cops in there and you kind of coerce a statement, you put pressure on them. So alright, so when I get you out, I'm going to ask you to do some DUI tests. And there's a whole bunch of different tests they do. There's a hand slap where you count 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, and then you say do that 4 times. 1, 2 is 1 time, 1, 2 is 2 times, 1, 2 is 3, 4. I want you to count 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Do that 4 times. And a lot of times if they're drunk, they'll sweep their hand. It's called a sweeping motion because they try to do it, they do it quick and they'll double tap. So those are the things we're looking for the hand tap. Then there's a finger touch. You can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 3, 2, 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 3, 2, 1. And I'll say, okay, this is 1 time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 3, 2, 1. That's 1 time. I want you to do that 4 times. So they'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 3. And so you're looking for miscounts, mistaps. They did it 5 times, they did it 3 times, they didn't do it. So the more times a cop can say you failed to follow direction, the more times it shows that you're under the influence and shouldn't be driving. So as a cop, it's my job to get you to basically not follow directions. So the DUI tests are very specific. I have you do it. They're usually done on tape. And you're going to screw up because you're nervous. It's at night. You're scared. You've probably had a drink and you're just nervous anyway. So I mean, very few people, I could give sober people a DUI test and I could write it up as if they failed. And that's the other thing. There may not be alcohol because there's driving under the influence of prescription drugs or illegal drugs. So you may not have alcohol, but if you're cranking and you're wanting to take apart your license and you're moving around and you're like, yes sir, no problem, I can do that. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yeah, what do you want me to do? And you may not be under the influence of alcohol, but you still shouldn't be driving because you're under the influence of drugs. So there's other things, but you know, for alcohol purposes, DUI is normally considered for driving under the influence of alcohol. So there's a hand slap, there's the finger count, there's a stand with your head back, touch your finger to your nose. There's what's called the Romberg test, where you put your heels and toes together, hold your head back, and you estimate 30 seconds. And what I'm looking for in that 30 seconds is a normal sway of a person will move back and forth like so. When somebody's drunk, they tend to do a figure 8. So as I'm looking at you, I'm looking for that figure 8, and your eyes are shut and your head's back. So, and then I'm going to tell you, I want you to estimate 30 seconds when you close your eyes, and I'll tell you when to start. Now, somebody under the influence of heroin, you got to stop them because like 2.5 minutes later, they're still counting to 30. Somebody under the influence of speed, I've got people with crank, and I go, put your head back, because as a cop, I was a DRE. It's called a drug recognition expert. So we went to special training to recognize for drugs, so we could come up and just arrest you for drugs by just doing a few tests on you with our experience and tell pretty much 90-something% accuracy on what kind of drugs you're on. So we would go out and we'd get all these crankers. We'd go to the crank neighborhood and the drugs, and we'd do tests. Hey, what are you doing? How you doing? We'd start off with a simple talk. Hey, you mind if I do a couple tests? Oh, sure. Yeah, I got nothing to hide. Do a few tests. Next thing you know, you're under arrest for 11,550, which is under the influence of drugs in a public place. So if somebody's on crank and I do the Romberg 30 seconds, this guy, it'll be like, okay, close your eyes. Okay, I want you to tell me when 30 seconds are up, and I want you to start now. And they'll be like, okay. I go, that was 30 seconds? They go, yeah. I go, do it again. Okay. I go, I'll tell you what, do it for a minute. Okay. Because their mind is going so fast. Everything is going really, really fast. And then they'll tell me later, man, I waited a really long time when I answered you because I knew I was in the influence and I knew it'd be fast, so I waited a really long time. It was really fast. I was like, dude, it was like 3 seconds. Really? So now, once I determine, and once you know you do all these tests, when you fail, that's evidence against you. If I was to get pulled over, a cop pulled me over, I mean, I'm drinking and driving. If I had a beer or Jack and Coke and I'm driving home from somewhere after a couple drinks, and a cop pulls me over and goes, hey man, I think you're drunk, you want to do some tests? I go, I ain't doing no tests. I'll tell them right out, I ain't doing a test. Get your pads out, they have a little breathalyzer, I'll blow in it. It'll tell me, because that's going to be the last test anyway. After I have you do all this song and dance, after I have you screw up and fall and do all this crap, I'm going to get out the breathalyzer, and if you blow under 08, I'm letting you go. Doesn't matter what you did on the test. And if you blew over, you're going, even if you did good on the test. So, I mean, for me, I'm just going to be like, hey, let's cut to the chase. Get the breathalyzer out. I know I'm going to blow like an 04 or 02. I ain't drunk. Let me blow, and let's get on our business, because I ain't doing no test. And they'll probably get the pads out, I'll blow, and they'll be like, oh, you're 04. That's right. I told you I had 2 drinks, but everybody says they have 2 drinks, so cops don't believe them. So if I was giving somebody advice on a drunk driving, say nothing, admit nothing, don't do the test, give them your license, say, hey man, I'll either blow or I don't. Now, if you're really drunk, attorneys will tell you, don't blow and don't give blood. See, we used to be able to force blood. If you said you're not going to consent, there was a time that we would take you to the hospital, strap you down, and have the hospital draw blood. And we could actually use force to hold you. Now I think we have to get a warrant in order to do that. So if you have an accident, you hurt somebody, then we're going to take you to the hospital. We'll go scratch out a quick warrant and say, I need permission from a judge to force draw because I need to go this guy's blood because he had an accident and there was an injury and this person may die, so this could turn into homicide. And you can take blood on any crime that's a felony. You don't need any excuse. If you're arrested for a felony, a cop can go take a felony blood draw. It's called felony blood draw. And that will help determine whether you were under influence, how much you were under influence, what drugs you had on board. Because if you make a statement or give a confession on a felony and you're under the influence, then you can come back later and say, well, I was under the influence. So, I mean, I used to do it a lot. Agencies didn't like it because you had to pay for it, and it costs money every time you take them to the hospital and draw blood. So they normally don't do it. But you know what? If I arrested guys for felony, because my felonies were what I call good felonies. They weren't, you know, some bad check, what I call a poo-butt case where, you know, it's a financial crime or something that's not. I want real victims. When I was a cop, I wanted violent guys, predators, sexual predators, child molesters. I wanted somebody who were out there doing damage. I didn't want a bunch of people that were doing, you know, just out trying to make a living and doing their poo-butt crimes. Okay, if the uniforms want to do that, that was fine. But so DUIs, hey, when I was working it, I got a lot of DUIs, and that's the thing. Once they get you to blow, they're going to ask you to take one of 3 tests, either breath tests, urine tests, or blood tests. There's different variations. Blood test is supposed to be the most accurate. Urine is supposed to be the most least. A lot of people think if I can hold off urinating, it will make my blood alcohol lower. Some people will breathe hard, hyperventilate, get their heart rate going, thinking the faster their heart rate goes, the more their metabolism goes up, the quicker they'll burn the alcohol. That's true, but you would have to do it for an hour to really make a difference. So, but the longer you wait, the more it's going to go. Now, if you're messing around and I arrest you for drunk driving, I don't blow you till 2 hours later, and you're under the legal limit, I can say those 2 hours you burnt 0.04 and you were under. But I'm going to have to prove that's right, so I would have to take another breath test an hour later and show that you're still going down. Because what they would argue is, how do you know whether they were going up or going down? How do you know he wasn't drunk when you arrested him? 2 hours later, he just chugged a couple beers. Now you waited 2 hours, and now his blood went up by the time you took the thing. He wasn't drunk driving when he was doing it. He was drunk driving when you had him sitting in the PD. And he wasn't driving then because you had him at the PD. So those are the issues that are going to come up. But with anything, like I always say, hey, keep your mouth shut. Don't talk to the cops. Don't give a statement. Request a lawyer. And, you know, I mean, everybody goes out and has a drink or so, but if you're really drunk driving and they get you, it's hard to get out of it because it's pretty simple. I mean, they got you on video. Usually drunk drivers have the video. They're going to get a breath test, a blood test, a urine test. They're going to have tests. They're going to have video of you getting out of the car, stumbling, fighting. They'll probably have an audio recording on when they ask you questions if you're kind of mumbling. All right, hopefully that answers the questions on drunk driving and kind of where I stand on that. We'll end that there.